Hey everyone, welcome back to the final part of my Day to Night Hyperlapse series. In this episode, we're going to bring everything together, from the photogrammetry we built earlier to the drone footage we shot, and create a seamless day to night transition. We'll start by generating accurate camera paths for both the day and night shots directly from the photogrammetry cameras. And I'll show you how to clean up those paths, align them, and blend them into one unified camera move that transitions smoothly from day into night. Next, we'll take that path into our 3D scene, where we'll perform a 2.5D camera projection, using both the geometry from our photogrammetry model and additional data from Google Maps. Finally, we'll move into DaVinci Resolve to composite the results, balance the lighting, and finish the final day-to-night transition video. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a complete end-to-end workflow, from flight planning and drone capture, through 3D reconstruction and projection, to a polished cinematic transition. Let's get started. Okay, we will start this part with bringing our alembic that we exported in part 2 of our tutorial. And that's how a photogrammetry mesh with all the individual cameras that we processed in RealityCapture. So let's import it to our Blender scene. That's how it looks like. So let's first thing adjust our clipping plane over here, and to do that you go in over there, then to the view, and then you can just adjust your focal and value, something like that. And then for the clip start, you can just set to 0.1 so that it was not flickering. As you can see over there, it's obviously, and actually let's adjust a little bit. So first of all, let's rotate it appropriately so that it was oriented in a Blender world space. All right. So we'll just go to one of the axes, which is this one. So I will go to the side view and I will just start rotating the whole scene with all the geometry and cameras. And in order to do that, you just select in your collection over there and just selecting all the objects inside. And then you have here your rotating tool, and you can just start rotate it until it's horizontally aligned, something like that. Then you can move it up just to line up with the ground, something like that. Then let's check other views like this, and this one we will rotate in the other view. So we have it oriented like that, but let's make it horizontal, like vertical. So let's just adjust this axis as well. So we will rotate it about like that. And it's not really important how you will rotate it, but it's just easier to view if it's oriented appropriately. So we have it like this. The only thing that we will have to check now, if the buildings are vertically aligned, because like just look at this, is looking like a little bit rotated. So let me just switch to this view. Well, those buildings looks nice. Let me just check other view. Like yeah, in this one, as you can see, they are a little bit falling down. So let's just slightly adjust this axis until the buildings are roughly straight. And again, it's not really important how you will do it because we projected it through the camera space, but just, you know, to have it properly rotated. So okay, we have it like this. Now let's see from the perspective view, and yeah, this looks nice to me. And the first thing that we want to do, we want from all of these cameras that we have got from the RealityCapture, we want to make two cameras, one for the day shoot and one for the night shoot. And I actually created a Python script which will do it automatically. So what it will do, it will create two cameras, one for the day and one for the night. And I will share the link for that Python script that you can use it as well on your site. So, and to do that, you just go into the scripting tab over here. You will copy paste the script that I will provide. Just make a new, passing it up. So that's basically the script. And the only thing that you will have to change here is the collection name. As you can see, the collection name is here, is the collection. It was called photogrammetry in this original script. So just name it collection and you can run the script. Now, if you scroll down over there, and let's go to the layout menu now. So if I will scroll down, you have now camera day and camera night animation. And if you will just go through the whole frame range from 1 to 500, you will have your animation of the camera, right? So technically now we don't really need any of these original cameras. So just feel free to delete them so that they was not visible in Outliner. So you select them, delete them. Yeah, this is original camera, we'll delete as well. So let's delete also the day cameras. So now we have just this camera, which is having exactly same animation, and we have that one as well, which is properly animated, right? The next thing what we want to do, we want to transition from one camera to another. In our case, from day to night. And I also created a simple script that basically doing it for you. And in our case, it's just will copy keyframes from the day, from the particular frame range, and then it will copy keyframes from the night camera. But also what it will do, it will also copy all the camera properties like focal length, film gate, all of the details, because we need exact camera match, right? So again, we will go to the scripting. I will delete the previous thing. I will copy and paste our script here. And as you can see here, it has the name of the day camera, it has the name of the night camera, and the output camera as well. So you just run in the script, and now we have our cam day to night animation. So if we will go to our layout tab, I will just scroll through the frame, and it should have transition at frame 190. Yeah, this is where the jump is happening, right? This is where we transition from one camera to another. And in my case, in frame 190, I want to have our night transition, day to night transition, to be already finished. So from frame 190 to 500, I will just have our night footage rather than the day or day to night transition. All right. So now we have this camera as well, and we can also look through that camera if you want to. Let me just do it. And once we switch into the camera view, you can notice those annoying polygon planes in front of the camera, which we definitely don't want to have. And in order to get rid of those, let's just go to the perspective view quickly. And what are those? If I will just select the mesh, you see there is these polygons over there, and that's what's coming out from the RealityCapture, and we definitely want to remove all of those. In order to do that, let's just go to this view over here so that we can actually see all of them. And we definitely don't want all of those polygons as well. So we will go to edit mode. We will select all of these guys. We will then press Ctrl L, which is select linked. Okay, now it's actually selecting all of this. Okay, then let me just choose only the camera's mesh. Control L. Now it's selected all of those linked polygons and vertices. I will just go to delete and delete vertices. And you may need to do a few times. Okay, so I get rid of all of those hanging polygons, and maybe I just want also to clean up this one as well, and maybe a few others like this one. But again, that's not really important for now. Right, so now we have it, and then if we will again take a look through the camera, and this is currently our camera, and this is where the jump is happening from day to night. So now what we will have to do, we will have to create a blended camera, and I will show you how we will do it next. And in order to do that, we just need to go to our animation menu over here. And originally you will just have a dope sheet with the keyframes. So let's switch to the graph editor, which is this one. And now we will just go one by one for every channel and just try to make as smooth as possible our camera flight path. So you just right click on the channel, and then you do in the frame selected channels. And as you remember, our transition was happening and ending at frame 190. Yeah, so now we have our camera over here that we can actually see what's happening. And this is where we transition to the new camera from day to night. And let's just start. I will just frame select channel as well. So our goal is to make it as smooth as possible. So let's actually start to delete in some frames. Now, obviously we want to end up somewhere over here with our finished transition, so that it was actually a night footage. But just looking at this curve over here, it seems to me that we may opt to actually delete all of these frames rather than smoothing up over here. So I will just kill all of these frames, just literally by selecting them and cleaning up. So the next thing I want to do, I will actually delete this frame as well. Right, I will probably also delete a little bit of here. And our goal is still to keep original frames as much as possible, because otherwise you will have doubling edge on the projection, which you will see later on. But still, same time, we want to make it pretty smooth. So maybe we can just delete all of this, delete all of that, and then just interpolate a little bit. All right, I will actually kill this one as well. So we have it like that. Then we have here again the jump that we had. So I will need to remove all of this, even potentially this. So just smooth it out a little bit, and then at the end we have the jump as well. So I will just need to, let me just lock all others. So I will just need to delete this. It's actually for some reason not locking, but anyways. So I will delete this frame. This one as well. All right, just to make it a little bit more smooth without that huge jump. Now, in the first 190 frames, that's already our date transition, right? Somewhere over there. So let's keep it this way. I'll probably just also smooth out a little bit of those jumps. And that's just the X translation axis, right? We will have to do it for everything else and then just look at our camera. So I will keep it like this for now for the X-axis. Now for the Y-axis, let me just frame select the channel. And as you can see, the Y-axis is actually pretty good. It's just this jump over here from day to night. And as we want our transition to be already ended at 190, what I would like to do, I would like to smooth it in between where our transition will actually happens. So I will just kill some of those frames. And that's mostly will be potentially our transition, right? This is where we will blend. So let's actually keep it. So let's actually fix our transition start time. And I would like our transition from day to night to be from frame 70 to 190, right? So that we just need to make sure that all our changes happen with that time range. And as of now, I'm pretty much happy on this axis particularly. So now our camera is not jumping, it smoothly transitions from one to another. Now let's move to another axis, which is our Z location. And as you can see, that's quite significant jump over there. So we will have to, let's say if this is our start of the transition, then I will just select all of these frames and I will just remove all of those. And we will have our movement from this to this. Right, there is still jump happening, so we will have to check as an axis as well. But as of now, that will be our transition. I would potentially try to smooth it a little more, but let's first do it linearly, and if need, we can curve it out a little bit. The next one, so the Y one, we already finished, right? And the X one from frame 70, just unhide it, yeah. So this is where the transition will start, and maybe we can also clean up a little bit here, because not necessarily we need those as well, but yeah, let's actually kill a little bit of this as well. Something like that. Now let's check our rotational axis. And this one is not particularly that bad, and it's actually pretty small values, but we still can clean up a little bit of those just to have it a little bit smooth. Oops. Yeah, let's actually do something like that. Now let's check this one. So this is where transition happens, right? We have this rotation. So, and from frame 70, as we decided, we will have our transition. So we can freely just kill most of those points, keyframes. Right, now this one, well, okay. Yeah, this is a little bit jaggy, but at the same time, you see the range here. It's like really small rotations, and we could just maybe clean up those as well, just do something like that, so that there was no particular really huge jump like this. But honestly, it will not affect a lot the camera, because those are really small rotation values. But anyways, I will clean it up like this, and then this is the last one, and we could potentially do the same. But again, the values are pretty small, so we could just smooth it out a little bit, but we don't have to, you know, make it really, really smooth. Now let's take a look at our camera. So from frame 0 to frame 70, it goes mostly as is. That will be our day shot. Then from frame 70 to 190, this is where we will have our transition happening, right, until frame 190. And this is where previously we had a jump, right? But now it's looking really smooth and good. Now it still have a little bit of this roll and, you know, rotation, but I would rather keep it, because otherwise you will have some problems on your projection on the edges, right? So I'm pretty much happy with current camera, and I don't necessarily want to change anything more than that. Right. And the next thing that we will need to do is, if you noticed on our photogrammetry here, it's mostly ending up just right there. So we don't have our geometry of the city in far back or on the left. And we will actually need that in order to have better projection. But we can go with this, but then in the background you will have problems with the edges. And the fastest and easiest way of getting that geometry is actually extracting it from the Google Maps. And for those purposes, there is this software which calls RenderDoc, which doing an injection in the Google Maps and actually exporting a geometry from there. I will not cover this in this tutorial. I will link into the description detailed tutorial which explains how to install software, what you need to do, and how to do all of that. And at the end of the day, you will able to export format, which then you can import to Blender. And that format, let me just quickly check. Yeah, it's RDC, Google Maps Capture format. Now, what I will do, I will now bring in this scene already exported geometry, and I will show you what to do next. So I've already prepared an alembic out of that RDC file from RenderDoc, just because it's just faster to import. So let me just import to our current scene. Okay, so that's our file. Now let me just hide this collection. And it looks like it's imported in the same collection. Yeah, it is. So the result of that building mesh, that I just want maybe to make a new collection out of that. So I'll just make new collection, and we'll just move all of those buildings to the collection too. All right, so now we have our original collection. Let's hide it, and we have another one. And as you can see over here, it's looking pretty small. So this is our exported geometry from RenderDoc, and we will definitely need to scale it up quite a lot. So let me just select all the objects, and I will start scaling it up quite a lot. Now we will have to do exact scale later on, but for now I will just scale it up like this. And let me just try to find where we was actually doing the shoot. Yeah, so it's this past road, and this is what we have in the photogrammetry, and these buildings and that buildings. So we don't necessarily need the whole Montreal. So what we could start doing, we could start deleting the pieces that we don't necessarily want. So I will just delete that. I will delete that. Some of those. This one. Yeah, I don't think we need to have those as well. So I will also clean up all those mesh in the far back, because again, our story happens somewhere there. So we just maybe need those buildings in particular maximum. And we don't necessarily see anything on the left. So I will also clean up all of this. And once lined up with our photogrammetry mesh, I will probably clean up a little bit more in case we don't need those. Right. So that's this. And now let's unhide our original mesh. And as you can see, that's quite huge. So let's start selecting our Google Maps mesh and just scaling it up until we will kind of get to the same scale. And our goal is basically to match exactly this mesh to our photogrammetry mesh. In order to save the time for this tutorial, I will just pause the recording and I will come back once I will start adjusting the scale, position and rotation of this Google Maps mesh to our photogrammetry. Okay, I have finished adjusting our Google Maps mesh to our photogrammetry, and let me just unhide it, and this is how it looks like. And as you can see, it's matching pretty much close to our photogrammetry. And let me just go to the shading mode. I assigned the green mesh to our Google Maps mesh, and you will notice it's matching really close, even on over here on the most front mesh. Let's just hide and hide, right? The only thing that you may also notice that on Google Maps, some of the buildings doesn't exist. Like this tower over here on Google Maps, it just doesn't exist at all. So it looks like it was built later on. So you may want to just add a box over there to represent that high rise. But overall, I'm pretty much happy with current mesh. And yeah. So the next step, what we will need to do, we will have to export our camera. We will have to export our mesh. And honestly, I don't think we will need even the photogrammetry mesh for our projection. We will just take this Google Maps mesh to the DaVinci Resolve and then just project it on that one, so that we don't have problems over here. We will have that mesh, right? So I will just export Alembics from Blender for both cameras and the mesh, and then we will continue in DaVinci Resolve for the projections. Okay, now we in DaVinci Resolve, and we will start doing our projection from the cameras and the geometries that we now aligned in Blender and exported as Alembic. So the first thing that you want to do, you need to create a new fusion composition. So you go into a media section, go in new fusion composition, let's call it day to night. I have already created one and I will jump there, but before I just would like to show you how to get started with this. So we will have frame rate of 25 frames per second, and then we have 500 frames, which equals to 20 seconds. So now we created that composition. So now let's just find it. Yeah, so this is the one which we created, and if you will double click there, it will bring you to the Fusion tab, and as you can see, it's just empty place where you will do the transition. The first thing that you want to do, you want to bring all your alembics that you exported from Blender, and in order to do that, you go into the Fusion tab over here, import alembic scene, and this is my version 6 which I exported from Blender. So I will just bring it in. Now here you can actually leave the resampling rate as is. It doesn't really matter because we work in frames, so because we will pre-render this clip anyways, and then we can do whatever frame rate that we want to, but our transition will be from frame 1 to frame 500 anyways. So you can leave everything as is. You don't have to change anything. Just probably remove duplicate keyframes and press OK. And this is what it will give to you, right? So what is that? That's essentially all your cameras and meshes that we had in Blender. So if you go over here, let it cool for a while, you can then zoom out, right? So this is all our cameras and our geometry as well. It has both geometries, the from photogrammetry and the one from Google Maps, and we will just use the Google Maps one rather than the photogrammetry, right? So that's how you bring in everything to Fusion. And one more thing, just for your knowledge, so how you bring in the media here, right? Because we will need to bring our DNG files. So let me just find quickly. Yeah, if this is our DNG over here, so you just, from media tab, you just drag and drop it over here, and now you have your footage over there in your Fusion tab. So now let me just go quickly to the ready Fusion compositions that I already made, and I will explain everything, how and what to do. So this is my Fusion composition which I made, and I will go through every step that you will have to do in order to achieve this output. So as you can see here, I bring as well the same alembic, and I just moved few geometries and cameras from there. And you will notice we have two branches which is quite similar. So one is this, one is this, and essentially what are those branches are, it's our day and night projection separately, and then on top we have our z-depth transition. And the idea of the projection is that you take in your original camera without any tweaks, right, which we created in Blender from photogrammetry cameras, and you projecting footage from that camera to the mesh, but instead you're rendering your 3D scene, the projection, from the smoothed out camera, right? Now, so let's start with this day transition. So, and as you can see over here, we have our day DNGs, that's the original DNG files. And I just added here a little bit of the color correction. And in order to do that, you can click over here, that will be a color corrector, or you can go like that's brightness and contrast, for instance, or you can press Ctrl space and then search here for the brightness, for example, or the color corrector, right? And what I done is I just slightly adjusted the brightness, corrected some highlights just to bring it to some good looking image, which I'm trying to achieve. Now, the next step that you want to do, you want to bring here your ST map, which we have exported from RealityCapture. And by default, when you will bring it in, let me just do it for you quickly. So I will just drag and drop here the ST map, just to show you how it will come in by default. And if you will check it, it will look something like that. And this is not the proper look for the ST map. And in order to fix that, you will have to go to the EXR format over here. You will leave red to U, change green to V, and blue change to none. And that's the proper look of the ST map. Right, so I have it over here. And what ST map will do, so you add a texture node over there, and you plug in both your original footage to the green channel and your ST map to the yellow one. And what it is doing, it's doing the undistortion for us. Right, it's doing this, which should match exactly to what we achieved when we was exporting our original Alembic camera, remember, because we was also exporting those images. So that's what was exported from the RealityCapture. Now, and if you will notice, like, it has a little bit of that extra thing because RealityCapture was actually cropping the footage, and you will have to do the same because you see here the resolution is 4000 by 3000. So you just add in a crop node over here and you specify here the values just to crop it and to match exactly to your image, which you have from the RealityCapture. And as you will notice over here, it matches pretty closely. That's this. Then what I added here, I added a time stretcher node, and what it is doing, it's just offsetting my media in file, the original, because if you will see here, the hyperlapse was from 0 to 500, but instead it is actually starting from 0 to 499. So I'm offsetting one frame the footage, because my cameras from Blender actually start from frame 1 and not from frame 0. So that's you will just do your keyframes in the time stretcher node, and then it will match to the footage, right? So then over here I have 3 nodes, and what are those? This is our geometry, the one which we created from the Google Maps, right? So that's just that geometry. It doesn't have the photogrammetry because we don't necessarily need it now, right? So that's this. And then also what I have created, I added a sphere like that. That's my scale. And why you need a sphere? Because you need to project also the sky to something, right? And in our case, most of the sky coming from this sphere projection rather than mesh over here. So, and then I'm just merging those two geometries to one, and this node over here, what it is doing, it is doing the projection, the actual 2.5D projection, right? So this is our day camera, in this case the original one without any modification, the one which we created by our script of combining of those individual cameras in Blender. So you plug in both to UV Maps 3D node, and you specify here which camera you're using for your projection, and what it will do, it will do the projection, right? So if we will take a look over here, if I will just take a look from the camera, this is what it is doing, right? So it's projecting from the camera to the geometry, our original DNG sequence. And this is what we did. Now, and then the next thing which I have here, I have again the merge 3D node. And why I need it? Because here I have my smoothed out camera, which is our main day to night transition, right? And I'm just merging it with the 3D node. One thing to note, when you will bring your camera, let me just take any of these, like this one for instance, you will notice that it will be locked out over here. And if you will go to the film back, you see that the resolution gate is set to fit. So that's wrong. And if it will be like that, your render will be just looking completely wrong. So what you will have to do when you bring in your camera alembics, you will have to unlock it. Just click in there, and then you need to switch from height to width. And that will have a proper film gate for you. So that's for every camera which you will bring in. I'm not sure like why it's coming like that, but this is you have to do in order to make it work. Now, so here I merging this smoothed out camera with all our projection geometry, and I am just adding another node, which is a render 3D node. And what that is doing, it's rendering out our scene from the camera which you will specify over here. And this is our smoothed out camera, right? This is our main camera which we created with, remember, with removing those keyframes and making like a smooth transition from day pass to the night pass. And that's mostly it. So I have exactly the same branch over here, and that is just for the night transition, right? So it's exactly the same. You just using your night camera for projection and using your night footage as input. Everything else is exactly the same. There is nothing different, right? So that's our night footage projection. And now let's take a look what's actually happening over here. So there is this copy aux node, and what it is doing, it is copying the z-depth channel, which actually coming from the renderer. So if you will go over here, you see in output channels we have the z-depth value, and if you will switch here and take a look at our z-depth, it will be actually black. But if you will take a look at the numbers in the bottom over here, it's actually negative value, right? So it's from whatever, from -100 to like 2000 or something. So we added this copy aux node, and what we're doing here, we're doing the aux channel setting to Z, and it is actually doing like a copy to our RGB channel. And if you will notice over here, it looks like a black thing, but the Z depth is there. And what I done here, you will see that I added few keyframes through the timeline. So my transition starting from frame 70, and you see I keyed out min and max value. And then I'm just will jump to the next frame so that you can see what's happening. Let it cook. Right, so somewhere over there my transition actually starts. So I will jump a little bit further. Oh, I need to switch to the RGB. Yeah, so that's my transition mask, which I'm using the Z-devs to do that transition which you saw in the final output. And it is essentially what it is doing. It's moving from here to the end. So I just have few frames set up during the whole transition from frame 70 to 190. and it's just moving forward, right? I'm just changing these values, and I'm keeping roughly 40 difference in those. And what it is doing essentially, if I will just bring it a little bit closer, it's how smooth this transition edge, right? So if I will make it like that, so you will have more smooth transition with much bigger area, or you can make it really sharp like that. So it's up to you what you want to achieve, but in my particular case, I'm doing that kind of transition. So once you have that, what you want to do, you want to copy this data to the alpha channel of this original render. And the way you're doing it, you add an merge node over here. You connect in both foreground and background of the same image, and you just add in a mask from the Z depths, which we just created our transition. And here, if you will go in the settings, you see here I have the multiply by mask option turned on, and then the channel for the mask, I'm using the red channel. And what it is doing, it's just masking out our original render without transition mask, right? And the next thing I'm doing here, I'm doing merge node with just using this as a foreground layer and using my day render as a background. So it's just coming on top and just adding that image on top of our day render with the mask, right? So if we will go here, now we have our mixed transition here. One thing that DaVinci Resolve is a little bit odd to me, how it actually handles the merge, because in Nuke, for instance, it's much simpler. But if I will go to frame, for example, 50, right, where I still have my night footage, right, like that. So let it cook. Yeah, and I have a transparent mask because, yes, there is still no transition. And if I am trying to merge this transparent foreground with the background, it actually gave me transparent output, which is super odd. Like I'm not figured out how to fix that instead of using a dissolve node. So what I'm doing here, I'm adding dissolve node, and if you notice, I have keyframes over here. So before frame 70, I have dissolve at 1, so we keep in only our day footage, and then on the next frame, where we will have getting our first frame of our transition, right, where we're getting our first Z depth value over here, like our first pixels where it's non-transparent. I'm switching to this node itself rather than a day transition, right? So there is still some value already, and then the merge works as is. So we will have our transition moving on. Yeah. And the last thing that you need to do, you just need to obviously pre-render that, because this could take some time and RAM. In my case, it's taken around 80 GB of RAM to render out, and roughly 2 hours of time to render out. So what I'm adding here, I'm adding a saver node, and I'm just specifying what I want to save out. By default, all of these channels will be turned on. You don't need that. What you just need RGB and maybe alpha. And always when you're doing a render, by default, it will be like RLE or zip compression. I really suggest you to switch to the DWA, because those files are significantly lower in size. With the zip, it was like 142 megabytes per frame, and for DWA it's around 10 megabytes only, and it's lossless compression, right? So it's still float values, dynamic range, but the data is much smaller. So other than that, I didn't change anything here, just specifying the path. And you just go into the Fusion tab over here and doing render all savers. So it will shoot the render process and will render from frame 0 to frame 500, right? So that's how the transition is done in DaVinci Resolve. In Nuke, for instance, it's exactly the same logic, it's just different nodes, but all is almost the same, and the result again is looking exactly the same, right? So I already pre-rendered this sequence, and then we will just bring it in and do some final adjustments and output our render. So I have over here our pre-rendered transition, and this composition in particular is 4K 16:90. So we will have to do some sort of transformation, because it first of all has to be that, and then we still have some problems over here because of the our smooth out camera, because we was doing our projection, right? So that's why it has those kind of artifacts. So we will have just scale up our footage a little bit in order to remove all of those things. So I will just anyways reformat it by horizon, right? Because that's our 4K resolution. So I will just zoom it in until I have it correctly. Something like that. And I think there will be still some artifacts on the edges over here, because you see the camera was actually projecting information and it was not already there, because the difference in rotation of our original camera and the camera which we have smoothed out is quite different. So we will have to scale it a little bit more than that just to remove those artifacts, right? So this is what we have, and maybe what I would like to do, I would also like to move it slightly a little bit down, just to have a little bit of the sky in the shot, and that will be our transition. Like that. Yep, that works nice. And the last thing that you want to do is actually add a little bit of denoising, because specifically the night shots over here, they have quite a lot of noise in the footage and also on the sky. So the way you're doing it, as usual, you go into your color tab, you go in to the motion effects, and let's just zoom in to see the effect. So the temporal I'm using always 5, better, motion large, and the luminance something like around 1110. All right, we removing a little bit of the noise, as you can see over here. And the last thing that you want to do, you want to have your spatial noise reduction on, and I'm always using AI ultra noise reduction. So as you change into that, doing analyze, it will pick up some region, and then once it's finished cooking, yeah, this will be your noise free output. Like you see, it's really clean and sharp, right? And after you've done that, maybe the last thing that you want to do, just add a little bit of the sharpener filter over there. Let me just quickly find it. Yeah, sharpen. So you just drag and drop, and usually 1.8, but it's maybe just too much, so 1.55. is some reasonable amount. Now let me just quickly disable the AI reduction because it's super slow, just to show you what's the difference with and without sharpener, right? So that's before and after. And yeah, I will just enable now the noise reduction again, and we will just have to render it out. So let me do it, and then we will take a look what our outcome is looking like, and I will give some final thoughts. Okay, I have my pre-render finished, and now let's take a look how it's looking like. So let me just go to full screen. And it's looking pretty great. We still have some jerks because we actually didn't clean those up. But there is a reason behind that. Specifically, if you will go to these frames, somewhere over there, you see that region over there where we have those kind of double edges that then disappears, right? This is where the huge jumps on our camera was happening. So what is going on here, we're projecting from the smoothed out, we're projecting from the original camera and rendering from the smoothed out camera. So, but let me just go there. I will show you why it is happening. So that's why we don't want to deviate a lot from our original camera. Yeah, right over here, right? You can see that effect is happening, and it's not only here, it's everywhere. That's why in my transition I added that, you know, artifacts kind of effect on top, just to hide it, those particular frames. But I will show you where it's coming from, and there is a way to make it super smooth and super nice, but that will require a lot of effort and spend time. So let me jump again to our Fusion composition. Okay, I'm in Fusion composition, and you may notice that we have this doubling of the buildings happening, and that's happening because we have our sphere, which is not exact geometry, right, for the buildings. So what's going on, it's just projecting same buildings onto the sphere. So if I will just disable the sphere quickly, you will just see the projection to the geometry of the actual buildings, right? And then on the back we have a kind of sky projection, but same time it also capturing the buildings. So because those polygons much further in the distance, so we get in those doubling edges. Now, and in order to fix that, what you will have to do, you will have to basically clean up all your buildings from the sky and project on that sphere only the sky. But that's really a high-end kind of Hollywood movies exercise, and this is what VFX artists are doing for the complex shots. They also doing some masking their building and putting some cards. So, and there is a way to do it like perfect, but in our case, we'll leave it as is, and maybe that will be a topic for the next tutorial that I may record in the future. So I hope you really enjoyed all these 3 parts of the tutorial series, from the shooting planning, the actual shooting, and then all this photogrammetry and Blender mesh and cameras cleanup. And I really do hope that you get some new knowledge and you will be able to achieve some nice day to night transition using your drone footage. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe if you want to see more of these high-end kind of topics that will help you to bring your drone footage to the next level. So thank you and see you next time.